Trump reminds me of that really bad kid in school that, you know, all of a sudden there was this certain right that you had as a kid. If you think back to your childhood, there was this right that everyone got to enjoy, but then that one kid ruined it for everybody. You
Yes.
know, that's what Trump sort of reminds me of. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fly In, a podcast brought to you by the New Dems. I'm your host, Mark Veasey. Unfortunately, Greg got held up. There's really bad weather happening around the country, crazy weather, and he is not able to make it to DC. But I am grateful to be joined by our guest host, who's also a neighbor to Washington, DC, and that's Congressman Johnny Olszewski. Did I pronounce that right, Johnny?
You got it, Johnny Olszewski.
All right.
Yes,
I
sir.
love that. I love that. Also known as Johnny O. That's what I like to call him, and that's what everybody calls him. He is a freshman lawmaker from Maryland, and we are going to run through the latest developments that is dealing with DHS, Iran, just everything that's happening around the country right now. So, Johnny O, welcome, man. What do you think about being
Hey,
on the podcast?
well, I'm honored to be on. Thanks for having me. We're hoping Greg's okay out there with all the storms that are happening. We know that Governor Whitmer recently called for some investigation with Trump canceling the National Weather Service funding that we're now seeing in real time, concerns about the tornadoes that struck down there. I'm hoping that's not the case here, that everybody's safe through the storm that's coming up right now.
I wanted to ask you to just tell us something that we don't know about you, something that we can't Google about you.
Okay.
It's all right to have some fun with this, but come up with something. Tell us a little bit about yourself that most people don't know about you.
All right, Mark, I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you a 2-for-1 here then. One is that I DJ'd my way through college and grad school. So
Wow,
I'm retired now. The DJing is over.
nice.
But I started DJing in high school, went all the way through college, all the way through my master's and my PhD. Did some friends' weddings and stuff along the way. DJ Johnny O. So we've had to retire the DJ part and change it to congressman. But I had a lot of fun doing that, and just a love and appreciation for music.
Oh wow, okay. So that is something I definitely would not have guessed that you
And
were a DJ. That is awesome. Could you scratch? Could you like what all? What were
it
your
was
most?
records and CDs, yeah. So now they have
Yeah,
all the music's digital now, and so
yeah.
I tell you, people are like, just go ahead and start doing it. And I'm like, I can't find my way around a computer DJing, so I was like, maybe if we have some old school stuff at some point, we can turn it up again. But it's just some great memories. But yeah, it's changed entirely since when I was doing it. But it was a lot of fun. The second thing I'll give you is I love playing pickleball, and so I'm a bit of a pickleball addict. And
Okay.
whether it's with some other new Dems like Mr. Stanton or with
Yeah.
Clark, I'm out there often on the courts, and it helps to have the wingspan that I have. But that's
Yeah.
a current thing that you will not find about me on Google, but is also true current. So a past
Nice.
thing, current thing for you there.
And Stanton has that little trick that he does. He knows how to spin the ball a little bit. So you have to really bring your A game when you're playing with Stanton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure that he is just terrorizing all of the senior citizens on the pickleball courts in
That's
Phoenix, Arizona.
That's actually how I started playing. When I was county executive before I came to Congress. I went and visited a senior center, and they challenged me to a game of pickleball. I'd never heard of it before.
Oh
I
wow.
got embarrassed. Like they crushed me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I'm young, and I'm gonna and it was not good. I feel like I could hold my own now, but I got to thank the seniors of Jacksonville Senior Center up in northern Baltimore County for getting me going with pickleball.
Wow, man, I love that. I absolutely love that. Okay, we're about to hop into the news of the day, and as you know, and a lot of the country knows, especially our TSA workers, that we are now 1 month into the Department of Homeland Security shutdown that started on February the 13th. This whole shutdown started because Democrats were demanding that we get some change, and we want some change when it comes to ICE. We want change when it comes to CBP, that's Customs and Border Patrol operations. We want reforms, especially after we had 2 Americans that were killed in Minnesota earlier this year. And so far, Republicans have literally refused to help us pass any of these common sense reforms that aren't Democratic reforms. These are reforms that the American public wants. And despite Democrats introducing compromise legislation to fund all of DHS, minus ICE and CPB to give time for negotiations. Republicans are just choosing to keep everything shut down. And so, Johnny, I wanted to just ask you, what do you say to Republicans that are accusing Democrats of shutting down TSA, FEMA, et cetera? What do you say? What do you say when you hear that?
I say cut the crap. I mean, I think you
Yeah.
outlined in clear, very understandable terms that Democrats are at the table. We have, I think, some very well-founded concerns about ICE and CBP. We're looking for reforms, as you mentioned, that are overwhelmingly supported by the American people. They're actually not just supported by Americans; they're best practice. I mentioned my time in Baltimore County. We had one of the largest police departments in the country, and a lot of the reforms that we're asking for are things that we did as a matter of practice. Body-worn cameras, make sure we have warrants to go into houses. We can't even get our Republican colleagues to agree not to deport American citizens. But to your point, like we're here to say, let's fund everything else. Let's fund TSA. Let's fund the Coast Guard. Let's fund FEMA, especially in the midst of these storms and a war that's going on. There's no reason we should be playing politics with these workers, with American people. I mean, you travel a lot coming to and from DC. I'm sure you see the lines getting worse and the concerns about security. So I would just say, cut the crap, guys. Come on, let's get this thing funded, and let's have the debate and let's have the discussion over what's happening with a lawless ICE, which, by the way, has plenty of money. Republicans gave them over $70 billion to fund ICE during the big ugly bill. So, we will have things going. Nothing will be without funding, but we shouldn't be giving more money, in my opinion, and I believe yours and others, to a lawless agency that's just unchecked and has killed American citizens.
Yeah. Do you think that Republicans will come to the table to pass reform, or do you think that they're too, beholding and subservient to Trump and wanting to please MAGA? Or do you think they'll finally say, hey, we need to sit down and put Americans first and put the politics aside and actually get something done that will include Democrats?
Yeah, I don't know if this has been your experience, but for me, it's been really hard to have our colleagues on the Republican side, in conversations on the floor, off the floor, things away from actually voting, admit that they have concerns about the way, whether it's how ICE is conducting business, the decision to go to war with Iran, the cuts to Medicaid, the cuts to food stamps, the tariffs. I mean, issue after issue, there's been this sense of like, yeah, I don't know that I love it, but I have to do whatever the president wants. And that's sort of been the experience in terms of whatever Trump says. And it could be, do one thing one day and do the exact inverse the other day. But as long as Trump says it, folks tend to fall in line with what he wants to see happen, at least among the Republicans in Congress. There have been just very few examples, I think, of some colleagues who have really shown some courage to stand up to things that they think in their heart is right.
Sure. Okay. As you know, just over a month ago, Kristi Noem was fired by the president. I have my opinions about why she was fired. What are your opinions, and what did you first think when you found out that Noem was fired?
My first thought is that she wasn't actually fired, because I think if she were actually fired, as we saw under Trump 1, she might have more to say about the president, her experiences running DHS. So she got this golden parachute job where she's some special shield, some job that Trump made up and created, so that she's still technically in the administration, in the family, in the fold, and is not going to go out and do what we saw with your and my former colleague, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who left Congress and is now speaking some truths about what she experienced with President Trump. So, my first thought was it was overdue. I thought she should have been fired a long time ago. I supported efforts to impeach her if she wasn't going to be fired. But my fear is that it's not so much just the head of the agency. I doubt that Trump is going to put anyone in place. And Markwayne Mullin, Senator Mullin, seems like an okay enough guy as a person. But I know for sure he's not going to come in there and repudiate how ICE and CBP has been operating. I doubt he's going to go in and say this is an agency in need of reform. So, I was glad to see Kristi Noem ousted. She was the first person to call Alex Preddy and Renee Good domestic terrorists when they were killed. She, did not care about decency in our approach. She could care less about the inhumane conditions at places like these holding facilities, like the one we had in Baltimore that I visited recently. So I was glad to see her go, but I'm concerned that we're not going to see much change, unfortunately, until we, stick to our guns here and push for those changes. I was glad to see Leader Jeffries push forward this discharge petition we're going to be doing this week, where Democrats are going to say, we'll fund everything else, Republicans, but come to the table on the reform. So we're going to have a discharge petition hopefully this week to make sure that we're taking a vote, standalone vote, to fund TSA, Coast Guard, and FEMA.
Democrats are pushing for common sense reforms that most Americans want to see, right? Things like requiring federal agents to unmask. To me, it's just things like that we should be doing, that are a part of the Democratic agenda that Republicans should be working with us on, because while it's a part of the Democratic agenda, there are items that I think would most common sense Americans would want to see. What do you think about that?
I wholeheartedly agree. And again, not only do Americans overwhelmingly support these reforms, they make officers safer. They make communities safer. They're best practices in law enforcement agencies across this country. So I think Democrats are right to be pushing for them, but I also think that it's short-sighted for our Republican colleagues to be opposing them. And so I think we're right on this fight. I think we're right, especially as we as Democrats are keeping the fight specifically to ICE and CBP, because we're not trying to jam up these other agencies. We are trying to fund them. And I think in the space of, especially around what we've seen with ICE, for example, I think we're right. And I think we're supported by the American public.
Yeah. You just visited a facility in Baltimore. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience, what you saw, what sort of questions you asked, what sort of answers you got?
I recently visited with a bunch of colleagues, and among them was Glenn Ivey, who also represents Maryland. And Glenn Ivey had recently gone to Selma, Alabama for the anniversary of Bloody Sunday. And he said as part of his trip, he visited slave quarters. And while I wasn't on that trip, what Glenn said to describe the facilities in Baltimore was he made it akin to what he saw in the slave quarters. He actually said it might have been worse conditions in these ICE facilities than what he saw during his trip. And that was just staggering to me. I mean, they were concrete benches where we actually had a judge say that the facility in Baltimore could have no more than 55 people total. And there were about 6 different jail cells, and just one capacity had 75. So they were jamming people in, not enough room to sleep, not enough cots or beds. People were sleeping on concrete floors. There was one bathroom with no privacy. It was literally next to the sink where I think water was being distributed, or people would drink water. I mean, it was disgusting if you think about what it would mean to have so many people crammed. It was just inhumane. And we've heard reports of, and we've asked questions about a Legionnaire outbreak in that facility. When we went to visit, there were no individuals held there, even though we know that there were just awful conditions. There was a viral video that came out of Baltimore showing those conditions, which is why we keep showing up. But we don't know if it was because of the potential Legionnaire outbreak or a recent judge's order about conditions. There were cleaners in there. We did ask lots of questions about where these folks had gone. We were not told that from the individuals responsible on site. So, we take it as our responsibility and our obligation to do this oversight. It's clear, the law is clear. Unfortunately, it's taken some judges' orders to finally have ICE agree to let us come in without announcement, without planning, as Kristi Noem required, unfortunately. But now we're in a place where we're going to keep showing up and hold folks accountable.
Overall, the humanity and the inhumanity of it all, I think, is terrible. It's detestable. And what are we doing? What are we doing in the United States? We need real reform at ICE.
Yeah, I mean, not another penny until we have it. I mean, I think that's an easy thing for me to say, and I think that Democrats feel that way strongly. Look, I think we can agree that we want a secure border. Democrats aren't necessarily fighting that, right? New Dems aren't fighting that. We want a fair and reasonable path to citizenship. Democrats aren't fighting that. New Dems aren't fighting that. But we also, and I think this is in line with Americans, we don't need mass deportations. We don't need to treat people inhumanely and put them in conditions worse than some animals are living in. We don't need to be arresting and detaining and deporting American citizens. We can put in some common sense reforms. So I think we're on the right side here, and I think that history will judge those who are, okay with cheering the way this immigration policy is being implemented by this administration.
We are going to now take a look at the clip of the week. Recently, the ongoing cost of living crisis has become even worse. Gas prices are spiking around the country because of these operations that Trump started in Iran that he doesn't have any clue what he's doing, had no game plan at all. Let's take a look at how the American people are reacting.
What happened to gas prices? 2 weeks ago, gas was $2, and today gas is $4. You guys.
I'm not even filling up right now. I'm just barely, trying to get by with, putting 20 in. But that's not going to last all week.
Drive a Honda.
I've never paid $40 for gas.
Over the price of what a Chipotle burrito used to be. That is just insane.
Look at these prices. It's not what drivers want to see, and yet we may be looking at them for quite some time.
It's insane. Like the one Trump promised he would lower costs on day one. He's like, you elect me, costs are going to come down day one. And not only are tariffs driving up costs, not only did we rip healthcare from Americans who needed it, driving up cost of healthcare elsewhere, taking away food supports for kids and seniors and veterans. And now it's like, okay, well, let's drive up the cost of gas too. And I think people are pissed off. I think they've had enough. I think you see it in the polling on all of the issues where the president is underwater, not just on the issues, and Republicans are underwater, especially in Congress, not just on overall, but on any given issue. You're seeing a significant change because I think we are best when we focus literally on the bread and butter, right? Can people have a roof over their head and food on the table? And with gas prices, it's just one more gut punch for people who are just trying to get by.
Right, exactly. And people know that it's bullshit too, right? And people also can see that this man has no plan. I mean, the reports that came out today that said that General Kane advised him that there would be significant disruptions in the strait, and Trump went ahead and proceeded. Just no plan at all. What did he think was going to happen? And not only is there no plan, there is absolutely nothing that can be done outside of taking over that section of Iran that could stop them from doing these sort of covert operations. When I say them, I mean the Islamic Republic of Iran, that would stop them from being able to conduct these operations. There's nothing in place outside of taking over that section of the strait and you need to be on Iranian property to do that, and that would call for there to be boots on the ground. The other thing is that Trump has alienated so many of our NATO allies, and now he's trying to threaten them to get involved when he just told them not too long ago that they didn't mean as much to the U.S. as they used to, and now he wants to try to compel them to all of a sudden get into this idea that even he doesn't really seem to fully understand what he's gotten into.
That's right.
It's crazy.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know. And sadly, I don't know where because there is no plan. I don't know where this ends. And so I had a town hall, a couple hundred people this week, and they're like, well, how does it end? I'm like, well, either Congress has to assert its authority and do the right thing, which we tried to do, or the American people have to speak up and make the president change his mind about what's happening. So I share your view. I don't know how he accomplishes any of his goals without putting boots on the ground. So he either has to just call it a day, have a more hardline regime than was there before, who still has potential nuclear capabilities, or we have to put boots in the ground to do some of the other regime change or getting out the nuclear. And I don't know which way the president's going to go. And in the meantime, bringing it back to the clip, right? Like gas prices continue to go up. People continue to feel the pinch. And I think we're going to start seeing it on other goods and services, especially if the Strait of Hormuz continues to be pinched off.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Yeah, just again, no game plan at all. no sort of selling this idea to the U.S. Congress or to the American public. Just sort of went into it blindly, and it's really sad because not only have some amazing servicemen and servicewomen lost their lives. I don't know if you've been seeing the reports. Some of them have been just absolutely heartbreaking.
Yep.
And for something that the president just sort of half-heartedly went into without fully preparing, and it's a tragedy that people have lost their lives. It's sad for the American public, especially people that believed in Trump and believed in MAGA, that he was going to lower prices, and he has not done that. Prices are going to continue to go through the roof. Just sad all the way around. Johnny, before we go, what is something that you care about that you think is just not getting enough coverage this week?
Well, it was covered before, and unfortunately, like the hits keep coming with this. But there's a guy, Josh Nass. He is a lawyer who had been basically selling pardons to clients. He was arrested this week for extortion, going back to a client, basically trying to extort more money from a client who received a Trump pardon. And so this is one of a million examples of why I've got a constitutional amendment, and I know others have reforms in that would basically reform the process that gives Congress some oversight, because the ways in which Trump is completely abusing the pardon power. One more example this week of basically people being arrested for extortion because they felt like they weren't being paid enough for selling pardons. It's been given to crypto magnates who've given to him and people who've donated to his campaign. And I think the pardon has been completely abused. We got to do more about it. And I think that that's some big news that wasn't really covered because, costs are up. We're at war. And this is a president who thrives in that kind of environment. So, but I appreciate you asking the question, and thanks for having me on.
Johnny O, thank you very much. And we really appreciate you coming on, man. Yeah, thank you very much. Greg appreciates it. He will be back with us next week. And I want to thank everyone else out there for joining us. Remember to rate and review the show wherever you get your podcast. And remember, we're going to be back with a fly-in, another episode coming at you next week. Y'all have a good one.